This video shows how to create an Endless OS reformatter USB using Windows. First, we're going to start on the Endless OS support and training website. You can get here by going to support.endlessos.org, then selecting OS deployment and selecting Endless OS reformatter USB, and you can read the introduction here. This page, I'm not going to read it word for word, but it essentially says the reformatter drive is used for Endless OS Foundation partners who are going to install Endless OS on one or more computers. The reformatter drive requires fewer clicks compared to other installation methods. It also enables installing custom images, but it does not enable dual boot or trying Endless OS before installing. So for this video, we're showing you how to use Windows. So you select Windows instructions here. So first, let's go over the requirements that you need to create a reformatter drive. First, you're going to need a USB flash drive or external hard drive with enough storage to fit the entire image, plus about 4 gigabytes for the live installer system. So you want to make sure you have more than enough space here, especially in case you get an updated image that's a little bit bigger in the future. Typically, our images are under 200 gigabytes, so usually a 256 gig drive is enough. Sometimes a 128 gig drive is enough. Sometimes a 64 gig drive is enough, depending on your image. We also recommend using a USB 3 drive, and USB 3 is kind of confusing. The best way to look at it is find the fastest speed that you can. Read speeds of 300 to 400 megabytes per second is going to be your best bet. Also want to make sure you plug it into a USB 3 port. Not every port is a USB 3 port. If you look at the physical port, you can look at the color, and actually if it's blue, it's typically USB 3 port, or if it has an SS or super speed label, it is also a USB 3 port. You definitely want to use USB 3 because otherwise it's going to take a lot longer to install, especially if you have a really large image. Next, you need a computer running Windows 7 or later. The big important thing here is you have enough free space to fit your image. So like I said, some images are around 200 gigabytes, so you just want to make sure you have enough free space on your computer to download that image before you copy it onto the USB drive. You can check that if you go to this PC and you have your C drive here, you want to make sure you have enough space free. I'm using a smaller image for this demonstration, so this is plenty of extra space. So that's the hardware that you need. Next, you're going to need a bunch of files. First, you need the Endless installer for Windows. You can directly download it from this link here. And then you need your Endless OS image and signature files. If you have a custom image, we'll send you a link for that image. Basically, if you don't know where this is, contact support at endlessos.org and we'll get you sorted. It's important to know that there are actually 2 files that are required. There's the larger image file itself. It's a compressed file. It's a .image.gz. And then there's a smaller file with the extension .image.gz.asc. That's the signature file. So you definitely need both of those files. The installer uses the signature basically to make sure that the image itself is valid so you don't waste your time. Next, you're going to need the Endless mass installer and its signature file. Similarly, these are an image.xz and image.xz.asc signature file, and they begin with the EOS installer. You can get these from this link. I can actually show you where to go grab these. Basically, if you scroll down to these links at the bottom, there's the Endless OS mass installer. Expand that and grab the raw image and the signature. Or if you have a torrent client, you can just download the torrent as well, and it will download both the image and the signature. So I've already downloaded those before recording. So they are EOS installer, you have the xz.asc, and the image.xz. Back to the instructions. So we have the Endless OS installer, we have the Endless OS image and its signature, and we have the Endless OS mass installer and its signature. You can also look, I have them in this folder here, just in my downloads folder. I also downloaded the SHA-256 files. If you know how to validate a download, we recommend doing that just to make sure your download is correct. I went ahead and checked those before recording, but you can download those to validate as well. But for this demonstration, you need the image.xz for the installer, the image.xz.asc for the installer, and then you need your custom image and its signature. In this case, I did download our base image, which has a .xz extension. Your custom image will likely have a .gz extension, but it's the same idea. It's .image.gz, .image.gz.asc. So once you have all those in your downloads folder and the Endless installer, you're ready to move on. Moving on, once you have those downloaded to your computer, you can actually start preparing your drive. So we always recommend creating a new folder. This just helps you keep organized. I went ahead and actually deleted all my other files in my downloads before downloading these, so I'm just using my downloads folder. But to keep things organized, you could create a new folder and call it something like Endless OS, and then your custom image name. And then we recommend actually just putting all of those files in it. So they're all in one folder, nice and organized. That's very important. You do not extract the XZ or GZ files. They are compressed compressed files, but the installer will actually use the compressed versions of those files. So do not extract them. If you do extract them and you don't keep the original files around, you'll have to re-download them, which can take a long time. So keep them as XZ and GZ files. Another recommendation here to help things be a little bit more clear, what I've already done here is go in your files in Windows, go to Options, and go to View. There's this option that says hide extensions for known file types. If you uncheck that, it'll show you the full file name. If you check it, sometimes it'll hide some of those file names and you won't be able to tell that you have the right files. So we always recommend you actually just uncheck hide extensions for known file types. That way you can see you have the exact right file names. So once you have all those files in that folder, so it should have 5 files there, then you can connect your blank USB drive to an available USB port. Again, this is the large USB drive, USB 3, as fast as you can find. If Windows prompts you to repair it or anything, go ahead and allow to repair it. Again, I've already prepared that here. I have a large Samsung drive that I've plugged in as the D drive. Then you want to double click the Endless OS installer to run the installer. And so once this runs, it'll actually prompt you. This is why you need admin permissions on your computer to allow it to run. It'll spit out a log file here. That's fine. That's just in case anything goes wrong. You can send that to us for support. And then you'll have the Endless OS installer. Once it's running, you should see this welcome screen, which we do. And then for the option to use your own custom image, it's kind of hidden. This is just so random people don't accidentally come across it and get confused. But you actually need to hold down the control key on your keyboard, and then you click the click here link right here. So there's advanced options. You hold down control and then click here. Then you should see create reformatter USB. You go ahead and click that. Then you have select your OS version. By default, you'll see an existing image file. So this is your custom image right here. So in this case, I've downloaded the EOS 5 base image. So that's what's showing up here. Once you've selected the image, you can go next and it will show your USB drive. Here's that Samsung D drive. Of course, it will erase all the files on it, and you go ahead and you click next. First, it's going to actually verify the files, make sure the signatures match, and make sure the files are actually valid, and then it will create the drive. And once that progress bar gets to 100%, you should see this screen here. So it says, thank you, great, your Endless OS Reformatter USB has been created. It just verifies the version and the content that you chose. And there is a link here to how to actually use the USB stick and boot your computer. We'll get into that in the next video. But for now, you now have successfully created an Endless OS Reformatter drive. If you do get an error on that screen instead, you'll see that log file that was created, this endless installer log. You can actually just attach that to an email and send it to support@endlessos.org with details, and we can help you out and see what actually went wrong. That concludes how to create a reformatter USB using Windows.